Welcome to Rockstar Doctor Life. I'm Alyssa Longo, and each episode, my guests and I will bring you fresh, fun ways to rock your life as a health professional and create a business that aligns with who you are and the life you want to live. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Rockstar Doctor Life. I'm always jazzed to have these conversations with other healthcare professionals, and today is no different. I've had a great pre-chat with our guest today, who is Dr. Ryan Doyle. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Doc. Ready to go.
So I've gotten to know you a little bit through some of the things I've seen. Obviously, you're part of Dr. Ed Osmond's inner circle, so I've gotten to know you through that. And I know that you're up to some very cool things, not only within your practice, but also outside your practice. But for those of us just getting to know you a little bit more, give us a little history. Like, who is Dr. Ryan Doyle? What are you up to these days?
What is my history and what am I up to these days is an interesting...
Easy question to start with, right?
Yeah, right. So brief history, athlete as I was growing up, I easily navigated into chiropractic because it was an easy transition into sort of physical health and that sort of a background. I felt, now that I look back at it, I probably was unclear as to my direction really until I started facing difficulties in my business life. I went through chiropractic and kind of floated, started a practice. I attracted in two of the most amazing business partner teams that you can imagine. We went from an office of about 700 square feet to 5,000 square feet to a building that we have that's 10,000 square feet right now that is ridiculous. So now we like you and I were talking about in the sort of the preliminary conversation, is that there's in helping a lot of people, we manage a lot of people as well now. And so that's my evolution. Initially, my passion though comes from teaching and coaching. So similar to you is I love to coach and teach. Mm-hmm. I coached and I worked with the Pettibons with Burl and Sharon back in their heyday. And I used to teach the Pettibon system for a number of years. And then and I would literally work 4 or 5 days a week in my office, and then I'd fly away on the weekends, and I would be more on fire coming back to my Monday shift than I would any other time, working 7 days a week than I was just working in my practice. So I started to recognize that my X factor really comes from teaching and coaching. Mm-hmm. And then business got really busy as we started to expand. And then, as you well know, then kids come along and all the other sort of distractions and all the other things that come along with business and family and trying to figure out how I fit. And I would say where we're at now is, I spent the last 2 or 3 years in the biggest growth phase of our business asking myself, what the heck am I doing? What the heck am I doing? I got into a cycle where I was so focused on growth and business that I was leaving my body behind. I was out of integrity with everything that I practiced, taught, preached, as far as mind, nutrition, my own spine, fitness. I've always been a fitness junkie. I was doing triathlons, but I would do it to the nth degree, to the point of almost burnout. 2 years ago, I had an old injury in my neck finally collapsed, and I lost 60% of the function of my right arm. I watched my arm shrink overnight, still maintained practice, but I was at that point of just the treadmill couldn't be run fast enough. Mm-hmm. My relationship with my wife darn near disintegrated. And like I said in our prelim, the expression fitting time in with my kids was an actual expression. It wasn't like when I spend time with my kids, it was fitting time in, right? Like they were an afterthought. And I started to recognize that I was at a point where I was about ready to burn it all down. And I think that there's this gap that we experience between I don't have enough and I've got too much. And we kind of hit on both ends of that bell curve at some point in our careers. Well, I hit that point in my career where things were going externally, they were going so well, but I was imploding because my foundation was absolute shit. And I had no idea how I was the root cause of all those things. And so that led me into to seeking the advice of Warrior, which led me into starting to work with Dr. Ed Osburn, and the mission and the big mission that we now have in really helping other. I mean, we help almost exclusively male chiropractors because we have a tendency to grind really hard and forget our families. The observation, and again, this is a generic observation, is that women fall more into martyrdom, where it's everyone else matters except for us, right? So we lead men so that they can actually learn a little bit about the skills that are necessary, not to burn that foundation down, and also to grow a bigger connection with their own being, with their own fulfillment, so that that foundation can be laid with strong, really, really strong girders, so that they can actually grow in every area of their life. But it's so funny how we just, when I look across the board at so many different chiros, we have a tendency to just go hard in a unilateral direction without really being able to focus and build on all those areas across body, being, balance, and business. We have a tendency to focus on one and go. So that's where
of all industries do that, can be guilty of that. I mean, we all see it in our practices all the time too.
That's it. That's it. I mean, it's tough for us to work with patients that, that they're, one of those other areas in their life is so weak, it's become an anchor to them actually getting healthy again. So I actually see like you said, I see the applicability to absolutely every walk of life. When one of those things is off kilter, everything else gets drained over towards it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so you've had, obviously, you're teaching from experience, from you getting yourself to the point. So you're rocking it in business. So just so I'm clear and listeners understand too. So you graduated from chiropractic school and went right into a business partnership with these colleagues of yours. So
almost. So
okay.
I spent about a year on my own. In fact, for those of you that are starting out in practice, I started in my, I failed miserably initially. I had zero confidence, zero skills, and actually had to leave Alberta to come back to British Columbia because I just, I had no drive, I had no ambition at the time. And then I came back and I actually started working in my father's dental office, and I worked in his closet. I literally had enough space to put a chiropractic table. And I remember the day, a couple months in, I actually looked at my father and I said, "Dad, I can't wait until the day where I can see 10 patients in one day, and I can actually afford to pay to be out of the closet." So yes.
So you did that for a period of time, and then you connected with these colleagues of yours. And so then over the last 16 years, I'm guessing, then you have now worked together in a collaborative environment with a team. And now you've grown, as you said, to now quite a large facility where you have a gym as well in it, and you have other professionals working with you guys. And are you are you getting a chance to be Dr. Ryan as much as you are managing and running the whole business?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, as we all know in business, there's fluctuations in our connection with the business, in and out. The last 2 years for me is just completely transparently, it's been a grind. It's been hard, but and that's why I connected in with Warrior and Ed and everyone else. But for me, right today as I speak, I chose to let go of some things I was holding on to as far as sort of monetary things in order to go and seek more of what filled me up so that I can actually be present again.
Ooh, this is a good conversation I think we could have here, Ryan, because I feel like a lot of people get to that point. They have material success, or they have what they think is supposed to make them happy, and yet something inside is they're not fulfilled. They don't have the joy they feel like they should have with all those things.
That is it. I just recognized that I was grinding harder for something that I was disconnected from, and I had to go seek it. I had to go figure it out. And it's taken me, I went to 21st Century Leadership. I went to Warrior. I've had coaches upon coaches. I've had people drill me and pull everything out. I've gone in search really in what that is, and it really brought me back to, when you listen to those little messages that your voice tells you as you go through life, to the things that really fill you back up. I had forgotten, or I had pushed aside the fact that I love to coach and teach. And Garrett and Ed and those of us that are involved in what it is that we're doing with Men of Iron and Warrior and some of the other groups that I'm doing, the 30-day health habit challenge that I run through my office and through my own background, it's given me an opportunity to go and really be me again, so that I can actually show up the way that I want to with my patients. It's so easy, like you just said, it's just so easy to be operating completely attached from what's important in your heart. So yeah, the last couple of years I've made some very, very big decisions on a financial level in order to reconnect back with that. And that's one of the things that we teach in Men of Iron is like, you can grind, we can teach you how to grind harder in your business. That's not a problem. There's many coaching systems out there that will teach you to get to 1,000 patients a week, grow your $1 million practice, yada, yada, yada. But there's a lot of this that really has to do with, is this right for you?
Yeah, thank you.
Because everyone around you becomes affected by, are you operating from heart, or are you operating from what you feel that the pressure that's being put upon you is what you need to go and do? So need and want are the conversations that I had to have with myself. I felt like I needed to, had to push harder. Now the conversation is, what do I want to do?
And that's something that you're teaching, not only within Men of Iron, but also within programs you're launching through your practice, right? Like so for the people who aren't, for women, for people who have never been exposed to the warrior culture, or that don't want Men of Iron, but can certainly benefit from these other ideas that you're teaching.
100%. And look, I mean, Men of Iron is what we do because Ed and I come from a very sort of, it's a masculine dominated background, but it's what our experience is. I just feel out of integrity when I'm teaching anyone else other than sort of men that have come from this. You have to go out and become an ATM sort of attitude that we have. I'm like, I know that attitude, so I know how to help that individual. But in my office, we also teach Warrior's Way to our patients across the board. Because let's be honest, and I think maybe we had mentioned this before, women can have a tendency to go into martyrdom and take care of absolutely everyone else in their world, and they come last.
Oh, so I say it to my clients all the time. Like, what are you doing? What can you do for yourself today and this week? Because, you guarantee other people will take your time and energy if you give it to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's just, in my office, I teach it slightly different. I teach everybody in the office to build their engine, because that's the foundation that we need to be able to go and provide for our families, to be able to do anything else that we want to be able to do. So we teach, habits of mind, nutrition, spine, and fitness first, and taking care of you so that you have the ability to go provide for your family, or in the more of the female, like be able to, if you want to be able to give to your kids and everything else that you want to be able to give. You have to take care of you first. We have to get rid of this. I believe that getting rid of the word selfish is something we need to get rid of, because it's just misconstrued.
Self-care is self-love. I always like.
Exactly.
Yeah. You taking care of yourself is allowing you to give more to your partner and to your children and to your practice. Yeah.
Absolutely. So whether it's men or whether it's women, ultimately the Warrior's Way works. It's just a matter of building and expanding body, being, balance, and business all at the same time, but starting with a really solid foundation of extremely simple habits, so that you can actually build upon those habits. It's no different. You can watch this. So how many people do you know have come to your practice or started in business, and they've seen getting to where they want to go as an absolutely impossible mountain to climb, but starting with tiny little footsteps that they repeat on a day in, day out basis, suddenly they start grabbing traction as they're going up the mountain, and that applies across all areas of that. But as soon as you stop taking steps forwards, we go back down the mountain.
You
back
got to
down to
keep that
basics.
momentum going. Like, I think about that when I'm working out these days, because half the time I want to stop. And then I think if I stop and then have to start again and do another round of whatever, then it's going to be so much harder. But if you just keep going at a little slower pace and you keep that momentum going.
That's
So
it.
you must have, obviously we don't want to know anyone's names, but just like we have success in practice, we watch people transform their health and then their life. You must have some amazing stories from the men that you've led through the Men of Iron programs in ways that they've transformed their mindset, their physical health, their business life. That must keep you fired up and inspired to keep working in that capacity.
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, I had an interview with Garrett J. White just a couple of weeks ago, and he looked at me and he asked me a really good question. Because in order to go through the certification process, it's ridiculous what we have to go through. It's like going back in and doing an MBA and going back and taking a degree in the middle of the midst of chaos that we all have. And he goes, why in the world would you do that? And when I've been through what I've been through, I can't fathom knowing that there's other people that are out there going through some of the experiences. You and I have our own individual stories and histories that have come through, but we've gone through these experiences that have taken us into what we would perceive as our pit, sometimes so dark that you can't see the light that's on the other side of it. And I can't fathom not being able to give other people an opportunity to be able to just see some of the ways and the tools, the skills, and the accountability to be able to get out of those things. Business is not easy. We think that once you get into Cairo, it's like this golden ticket. I giggle every time that somebody says that, because I want you to add your relationships into that. I want you to add managing people, and I want you to consider all these things. We don't get that experience when we go through school. It's this tidal wave once you come out. And so for me, no, the value of giving back is and doing this type of work is what keeps me fired up. I don't know that I would have the same level of intensity, the same level of energy that I currently do within my practice if I wasn't doing some of this work. Sure, there's money involved, but like for me, it's Ed and I talk about it all the time. Men of Iron, like it's not really a money maker. It is it's
movement.
It's our movement, but it's really our legacy. It's something that we do completely detached from bump and grind. It's just I said to Garrett, there was no hesitation when I was offered the opportunity to become a certified trainer in the Warriors Way, because I knew I had to go and do this. And now the trouble is I just have to make sure that we can actually let those people that are in that place know that we're even in existence, so they know how to reach us, and actually that they don't have to be alone in their shit pile.
No, well, we will absolutely, listeners, be sure that you can connect with Dr. Ryan Doyle personally, obviously in the show notes, but also we'll throw in some links from Men of Iron, and I'll also throw in a link. Dr. Ed Osburn was on the show, and I'll throw that link in there as well. So I'm hearing you talk about all this amazing stuff. You've got a wife, 2 children, you've got a busy practice, and you've got Men of Iron, and you've also got these things that you're working on that sort of expand your influence even as a health professional outside, right, in the online sphere. How does Dr. Ryan manage his time? How do you have a tip? Because other docs listening might be like, oh my God, I would love to do that. Or I want to run a program in my community for women or for couples or for families. And we all know that it comes down to time is a valuable commodity. So how do you maximize your time? Do you have any secrets?
Yeah, so great question. So we've studied from leaders in our field as well as business leaders outside of our field. Most of your listeners will probably know Pat Gentempo and his sources. We've studied under Business Mastery. The reality of it is that when we set up our business structure here, we set it up with the design behind an ideal week, such that I like my week. When people say, oh, it's a long weekend, like, well, currently while we're having this conversation, it's a long weekend. And people go, well, enjoy your long weekend. Well, no. My week is the same whether there's a long weekend or not. That is one of my secrets.
Okay.
Friday is Friday. Monday is Monday. Sunday is Sunday. for the most part. So, and when literally, if I go away on vacation, like my exercise habits on Monday are my exercise habits on Monday. And if that gets skewed, I become I go into my little autistic rock, and I literally go nuts because I like the way that I've set up my life, but it's taken me years to build that. So I can't tell you how many times you hear a patient go, well, I can't fit in exercise this week. And I'm like, I had an hour and a half for lunch. I made it to the pool, and then I actually do kickboxing at 7:45 at night. That's twice today I've gone and trained. I'm sorry, you work 7 hours and you can't fit a workout in. So it's really just about time management. So when it comes down to date nights, I have 2 date nights with my wife per week. One is a structural functional one. We go and we have either a massage, we do a hike. There's a series of things we do on Wednesday nights, and then we have dinner, and then we orchestrate our week for the rest of the week. Friday is fun, and we've worked hard to develop this, but like literally once a month, I develop a date night that she's not allowed to know about. She can't, I develop it, I hire the sitters, I orchestrate it so that it's a surprise to her, and it builds excitement, because the whole time she's wanting to know, what's going on? Can you give me a secret? And it builds this fun factor that you may have had when you started dating in the first place. And she's got to do that once a month. And then we've got a couple of other dates that we do that are either social, or we either do a massage or a float tank. And then we follow that with dinner afterwards. But there's things every Friday I look forward to something because it's exciting. I'm either giving or I'm receiving, and there's something that's going on, and those are non-negotiable. I have time with the kids every Sundays. So some people look at me and they're like, oh, you're going to the pool again? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to the pool. That will change from time to time. When I have, at the beginning of every 90 days, I reset dates that I have that are outside of the norm with my wife and with my children, and I orchestrate those. So we go away, and mom's not allowed to come on these dates. Mom is not allowed to come on these particular dates. So daddy can have his time for full connection with his kids. And I'm not perfect with this, but this has taken me a long time to develop. And the kids love it because their time with daddy is a little bit different than their time with mama.
Yeah, no question. And your kids are young. I don't even think they're 10 yet, right?
No, they're 8 and 9, and yeah,
the boy and a girl. So they probably have a totally different personalities and energy for you too.
Totally. And then back to the original question though, is like, how do I manage all these things? It's all about simplicity. So in Men of Iron, for example, we teach connection on a daily basis with your kids and your partner. I leave sticky notes every day before I leave. And sometimes those notes are, hey, listen, I really appreciated you doing this yesterday. Sometimes those notes are, you know what? I'm so looking forward to you to going and getting a haircut with you on Friday. I'm excited because you got that new idea. And it's just acknowledgement. And sometimes it's just like, hey, Mr. Poopy Pants, I can't wait for the weekend. And it's something stupid and fun. But the connection piece is daily. And it takes me 2 minutes to write these notes. But again, if you look at the collection of habits that I've started to develop over the last couple of years, people would look at me and go, I don't know how you fit that all into the day. But it wasn't like I just went and did it all. I built one habit at a time to the point where my foundation started to grow. So I do that for my body. My workouts are the same time every week. My dates are the same time every week. My notes are the same time every week. My posts on social media are the same time every week. Being able to have the opportunity and blessed that I have the opportunity to be able to come and share on your show. I have that time on Fridays. I know when I can schedule things outside of my world, but my world is scheduled so that I don't have to stress about when can I fit things in. I just know when most things are fit in. So I know if I'm overwhelmed, I'm spinning too many things like this, trying to fit them in, and they need to be scheduled somewhere, and they need to be routine and habit. So I preach a habit-based lifestyle because it creates simplicity. And that's probably my biggest piece of advice, is that if you're trying to grow something within your body, don't go to the gym and do a 2.5-hour workout. Go to the gym and sit on the bike, watch 5 minutes of the Oprah show and piss off, and then do that 5 days in a row, And then all of a sudden you're going to watch 10 minutes of the Oprah show. Then it's going to be half an hour, and then you're going to want to watch the whole damn thing. And it builds based on simple little habits. Same thing with time with your kids or notes with your kids. Same thing with something you're implementing within your business. Make it so easy to do. Your brain will say, "Why am I doing this? This is silly. This is just silly." But all of a sudden, you start doing it regularly. It becomes something you can build upon.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest piece of advice to people: is if you're not gaining traction on something, if you're not getting up the hill, you need to simplify what it is that you're doing and make it more consistent.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also what comes to mind, and it's fresh at the top of my mind because I just recorded episode 115, which I will drop a link in for, but it was a monologue where I talked about, everything that's been going on in the transition of the show. And I wrote a blog post about this too, because people always ask me, how do I get so much done? And that was one of the reasons Ed wanted me to start working with you guys in Inner Circle with Jay Richardson as well, is, you get stuff done. I have been able to produce and create all this stuff on the side while being a single mom of 2 active boys and running a practice and having a pretty healthy life. And the truth of it comes down to 2 things, and I can hear it in your voice and what you've talked about. The first is when you're doing work that you're fired up about and that you absolutely feel aligned with and you love, it never feels like work. So I could sit here on, on a holiday weekend and have a chat with you, even though it's work, because I'm excited to talk to you and I want to do this. And it feels, I know there's an impact that this will have. It's just no different with everything else I'm doing in my practice with the kids. So when you're really aligned, and I know you're passionate and you've had such an amazing experience that you're wanting to share that with other people. So that keeps you really grounded. And the second piece is that if you're not taking time out and you're not taking care of you physically and emotionally, like we talked about, taking care of yourself, you cannot give to anyone else. And I think a lot of docs can live with a lot of heart and a lot of passion, a lot of fire, but then they burn out because they're just I want to serve everyone. I want to help everyone. And I'm forgetting to take care of the things that I need as well. And so I'll drop that link in there, listeners, to the blog post and the episode 115. I want to respect your time because I believe you have to get on a Men of Iron call very soon, but I have 2 questions left for you. And one is, you talked at the beginning about really getting clear on the things that you wanted in your life or what things you needed to do based on challenges that you had. And it's come up so many times where I feel people need to fail their way forward, right? That we have failures or challenges or setbacks because then we grow or we change course and we find a new path for ourselves. I feel like that's happened for you.
Oh, yes.
I mean, if you're like me or like most people, it happens every week in some way. So
I think that, probably one of my biggest criticisms, and yeah, I'll throw my business partners under the bus, but their biggest criticism of me is just that I'm ADHD. I try without thinking. I will do something, say something, organize, develop something without really thoroughly thinking it through. But for me, that's kind of how I fail forwards. I test something. I move. I'm a little bit like you, Melissa, and I got to move forwards. I got to be in movement constantly. I can't just sit in a chair. I got to stand up. I got to sit down. I got to move around. So yeah, I think as a mover, I don't look at failure the same way. I look at it as testing and learning and testing and learning. And yeah, I might be a little Neanderthal. I might be a little troglodyte in that I probably repeat my lessons more than some
until you learn it, right? And we keep repeating our lessons until we figure it out.
Oh my God, it's the definition of insanity. And yes, some people would say that I'm a little bit insane. So yes, I have failed a lot, and I probably push myself into fear, and I'm a little bit more comfortable with fear than a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Not to say that I have not lived in panic and that I don't have fight or flight in me. I do. Mm-hmm. I have lived in fight or flight for a long period of time, but you develop a muscle around it. I don't know how else.
Learn how to dance with it a little bit more, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So how does Dr. Ryan define success for himself now? After everything you've learned in your life through your warrior training, from getting to the point in your business where you knew you were growing a badass business, but your relationships were not where you wanted them to be, your health wasn't. How has that changed your definition of success over the last few years?
Yeah, so huge. And in fact, that's been my study for the last, I'd say 5 to 6 years. I have put my heart and soul into being able to define success for me, as defined by me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have definitely come to understand it completely differently. There's certainly there's the ability to provide for my family, for me and my family. That's in there. But for me, it's being able to balance those four areas of body, being, balance, and business. But one of the things that I find that a lot of people come to me specifically for, and I find that it's missing in a lot of traditional business growth cycles, is, well, what do you actually want, and what fulfills you? I've taken so many courses on this, and I've been able to funnel it down to 4 words for me. So I can actually tell you how I define success. But
Awesome.
The way I define success is adventure, which can show up as innovation, but I need something new. And that's why I'm ADHD. I'm all over the place, but I need to accomplish.
I'm with you.
Right? I need adventure. I need accomplishment. I need inclusion. I don't ordinarily do things on my own. I will bring a team of others that's either better than me at certain areas, or that is able to do things I'm not able to do, or I will latch on to you. I will latch on to Ed. If you're going in a direction that I like, I'm like, I want that. I will include myself. And the last piece is the piece that those people, the nice thing about, the introverted personality or the responder personality is they're quite soft. And as you can hear from me, I don't come across as soft. I can come across sometimes as intimidating or aggressive. Well, the reality of it is I just have this edge inside of me. I require, it's not a want, I require a level of adrenaline and a level of movement. And when it's absent, I start to lower myself a little bit, and you can sense it in me. So those 4 things are how I define success. But those 4 things have to be present across my body and how I treat it, my balance in my family. So I have to have the same. I have to have excitement. It has to be coming out, right? And then I have to go over into my business. And if there's not a level of excitement, growth, expansion in some way, I won't do it anymore. I will not do it. And same thing in being, which is why for me, I now came to understand coaching for me is how I light myself on fire so that I can be present for my family, and also be able to take such good care of my body that I can show up not as, I can show up with integrity with my patients and with people that I coach, and that I'm not, hungover 7 days a week, which has been something that I probably had practiced in the past in my youth. Right. So
present. Yeah.
The definition of success has definitely morphed and changed over my life. But balancing those 4 things within body, being, balance, and business is something I would never have. My wife, when I met her, like, the talk about children, that was an interesting conversation. And then within 6 months, we had children.
Well, what I love most about your definition of success, I like that you have those words and you can apply them to different domains. But what I loved was what you said before that was, like, you had to figure out what it was for you. Because what it is for Ryan might not be what it is even for Tracy, your wife, or for me, or for your associate, or, a friend of yours down the street. Like, it's unique for each one of us. And I think where we all get into trouble and can lead a life of stress and less joy is comparing ourselves to other people, or not getting clear with what success means to ourselves and what a life of matter and meaning is for us. And it surprises me when people have never given that any thought, but I'm glad that you have. And I'm really glad that we had this chance to talk today. I've gotten to know you a little bit better. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person, not too long from today's recording. And, I got to let you go and coach your men. So unless you have any final thoughts, it certainly was a pleasure to have you on the show here today. I respect tremendously what you're doing and the energy that you're bringing to not only the people in your community in Victoria, but to others. And I look forward to watching what else comes up.
Cool. Now, last thought for me is just, I want to mirror exactly what you just said. If you're unclear as to what fires and fuels you up, it will have an impact on every other aspect of your life. And you and I both have put a lot of time and energy into that. And that's why I love what you do. People can hear it. People can hear it in your voice. You're not doing this because you have to. You're doing this because you love to. And I love that.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And I wish you all good things and have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you for having me on, Doc. Bye for now.
I hope you enjoyed today's show. Find out more about today's guests and everything else that we talked about in the show notes. You can also find all this content and so much more, including videos, blog posts, and how you can work with me on the Rockstar Doctor Life website. If you haven't yet reviewed the show, we'd love it if you headed on over to iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a review about what your thoughts are about future episodes for the show and what you like best. Feel free to connect with me on Instagram at Melissa Longo DC and of course on Facebook. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.